With all these weird resurrections of 90s franchises, we're been seeing an awful lot of next generation storylines lately. Of course, we have like Boruto and the bullshit that's going on with that. We have Harry Potter, which also has its next generation, which also fell flat on its face and is also extremely controversial. And you have all these situations, right? You see this all the time. It's becoming like almost stereotypical how these companies so desperate to continue milking these long running franchises, like just throw kids in there, hoping they'll take off and hoping they'll be popular and hoping they'll be interesting. And it's kind of funny to like look back on this and like look at the reception to these kid characters and look at how people hate them so much. And I came to a realization the other day. Like, I was thinking to myself, what franchise out there takes the next generation and handles it correctly? And it came to me almost immediately. Dragon Ball. Right? Not Super. I'm not talking about Super. I'm talking about the transition between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Arguably, when the show really started finding its footing, really started becoming classic and iconic, and really defined anime going forward, is Dragon Ball Z, with the birth of Gohan and Gohan's storylines and like what he goes through in the show and everything that goes on. That is way more memorable and way more interesting than anything that's going on with Boruto or Harry Potter. Both of which, by the way, had to go back in time to keep themselves interesting. They had to go back into like the real storyline to get anyone's interest. Like, literally the only thing I know about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is that they go back in time and like stop Cedric's death, which is kind of ridiculous to me. And he becomes a Death Eater or some shit, which is like, what? Dragon Ball. The thing about Dragon Ball, and the thing that I think really goes unappreciated about this concept, is that like Dragon Ball treats Gohan like an actual character. Like, they don't treat him like a composite of Goku and Chi-Chi. He is his own person. He has his own character arc. He has his own growth. He evolves throughout like the entire thing, right? Like, he grows up. He like goes through different things. He goes through all this shit. And you see him over a long period of time becoming a warrior equal to, eventually better than, and then falls behind his father, all in like a believable, interesting way, right? Like, everything about Gohan stands up or is even better than the original Dragon Ball run, or maybe not better. Like, everybody has their preference, but right, but everyone agrees, right? There is nothing wrong with Gohan. Gohan is handled with respect, with tact. He is his own character. He actually fits into the world, into the storyline, and is beloved by fans. People love Gohan. Like, people will outright tell you that like he should have been the main character after the Cell Saga. That like that's how much people related to and liked Gohan. Like, Gohan was a kid character, a next generation character done right, in which they did not wait until the series was over to incorporate him into the plot. Like, he comes in about halfway through, right? Maybe a little bit before that, but he comes in when the characters, when Goku is old enough to have a child, and you have a kid now, and it's natural, it's organic, kind of surprising considering like what Goku is like, but it's handled realistically, right? Like, none of us ever really thought that Goku, kid Goku would be a father, but here he is, a father at the start of Z, and it's like, it kicks off the plot, really. And it's memorable, it's interesting, and it doesn't disrespect what came before. And I think that's like one of the big things about Boruto and Harry Potter that really drive people nuts, is that there's this tendency to sort of invalidate what came before in like the most obnoxious, condescending way possible, right? With Korra, right? Korra was another example of this. It's not really a next generation, but it has the same problems, right? Like, it doesn't have the kids, not really. It sort of does, but not really. They're not the focus. But Korra kind of has the same problem where, in order to try and make Korra look good, they tried to make Aang look worse. Like they tried to have this. I think they had this plot line where they sort of had a Korra deal with these criminals that Aang couldn't deal with. Like if the Legend of Korra was any indication, like Aang peaked at like 12 years old. Right, like that's the best thing he did was ever stop the Fire Nation. Like ever since then, it's all been downhill. It's just it disrespected this iconic character, right? This iconic cartoon character. Avatar is not an anime, not an anime. I said they disrespected this classic character, and as a result, it's kind of impossible to like or respect Korra unless you're like fetishized lesbians or whatever. But Korra is just so dislikable, so like nothing going for her. Like her character arc makes no sense, like her progression makes no sense, her romance makes no sense. It's just it disrespects the viewer, it disrespects fans of the original show. It disrespects the original show itself in regard to like how it handles certain topics. I'm not a fan, right? Dragon Ball, in comparison, when you compare that, right, with Gohan, like all the stuff he goes through to like attain his power, to like to being like abused by Piccolo, to like standing up to Frieza just barely, to like finally beating Cell, that is like a long, 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 long time for a character to prove himself in the eyes of the viewer. And Gohan did that consistently, like throughout the entire thing. Like you believed, like even as early as like the Vegeta invasion, like you believed as early as that, like Gohan was like incredibly powerful, like all these incredible powers that like he just needs to learn how to tap into because of his age mostly. And then he's thrown into all these crazy situations. He has to like protect his friends, try to bring people back to life, like being involved in all these crazy situations, fighting the androids eventually. It's just phenomenal, right? That he does this, but it's interesting. It's engaging. Like it doesn't disrespect Goku at all. In fact, like he seems to be very, very proud of his prowess as like a fighter and like his role and what's going on and stuff like that. Perhaps too much so, which is a very interesting point that gets brought up at the end of the Cell games. But it's Dragon Ball, I think, less so than it was in the past. Dragon Ball is probably one of the best anime ever made because like it's so much fun to watch. It's endlessly entertaining. Like the characters do grow and evolve. It established all these standards for this industry. It's just for the medium. It's so popular, right? Like so many iconic characters. Still continuing to this day to a somewhat to a small degree. I'm not sure people respect Super as much as Z, but we'll have to see if time really justifies Super. I still haven't seen Super, but I wasn't too impressed with the animation. But like Z itself, the original run is like an iconic anime, and for good reason. It is a lot of fun because it handled topics like growing up and being a father exceedingly well. Like bringing up some interesting questions about it too, and I think that's what makes Dragon Ball so unique and so memorable. It has so much going for it.